We are a reliable partner with the U.S., and even though, of course, we have these disagreements.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez has found himself in the crosshairs of the Trump administration.
The people of Spain are fantastic. The leadership, not so good.
His vocal opposition to the conflict in Iran has sparked a sharp backlash.
Es que no estamos ante el mismo escenario que en la guerra ilegal de Irak. Estamos en algo mucho peor.
With the White House threatening retribution.
We're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
You ready, Mr. Prime Minister?
Of course.
I sat down with Prime Minister Sanchez to discuss the deepening rift between Spain and President Trump and how it's testing the transatlantic alliance. What would you say are the biggest consequences of the current tensions between Washington and a lot of European capitals?
I do believe that there are more common values that we share that we disagree upon. So I think that it's important to build up a positive agenda between the U.S. and the European Union. Second, it's difficult to understand how an ally could separate its individual security concerns vis-a-vis the common security reality that we provide within NATO when it comes to Greenland and the Arctic.
Trump's insistence that the U.S. control Greenland has strained the NATO alliance. Member states have viewed the demand for the island as a direct threat to European sovereignty, but it's been a battle on several fronts. Trump has called out European allies for not spending enough on their own defense. Spain has resisted efforts to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, the number Trump is demanding.
Para el gobierno de España no tiene sentido comprometerse a gastar el 5% del Producto Interior Bruto en defensa.
We had one laggard. It was Spain. Maybe you should throw him out of NATO, frankly.
So you've become something of a lightning rod for criticism from the Trump administration, and at the same time we've seen a growing number of Americans choosing to move to Spain and make their lives here. What do you make of that paradox?
You know, I belong to a progressive family, the Socialist Party, but I can tell you that over the last 7 years, what I've been trying to develop when it comes to our bilateral relationships is to strengthen this bilateral relationship between Spain and the U.S. But it's also very important to keep in mind that, you know, allies are like friends. We can disagree temporarily, but it's important that we tell each other the truth, no matter what.
That truth could come at a heavy price. President Trump has threatened to stop trade with Spain after Madrid said it wouldn't allow the U.S. to use its bases for American strikes on Iran.
We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly. And so I told him, we don't want to, Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership.
It's unclear, though, how the Trump administration would be able to shut off trade with one country in the EU while staying open to the rest.
What do you think?
The White House has never specified what it would do, and no official action has been taken. Could the U.S. really do that to your country, and what would the impact be?
I think that the relationship between the U.S. and Spain are closer than ever. Americans love Spain, and we want to have the best economic and political and cultural relationship with the U.S. administration, even though, of course, we have temporary disagreements, for instance, when it comes to the fulfillment of international law and how do we solve different crises that unfortunately are creating a lot of problems, not only on the economic side, but also on the humanitarian side when it comes to these wars.
You've been quite blunt in your criticism of the U.S. and Israeli war with Iran.
Callar ante una guerra injusta e ilegal no es prudencia ni lealtad, es un acto de cobardía y de complicidad.
Why have you chosen to be so outspoken on this issue?
Well, as I said, there's a moral dimension of this war, or these wars, I would say, because I think all of them are interconnected. The Gaza war, of course, what is happening in Lebanon and, of course, in Iran. I do believe that there's a clear strategy from Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government to create a new geopolitical reality in the Middle East. I don't know if the U.S. administration is aligned with that vision or not. We are very concerned about the situation in the Middle East because at the end of the day, we suffer the instability, we suffer, of course, the insecurity and the economic impact of all these wars. And that is why we are so engaged and we are so vocal, stating that we need to return to diplomacy. In my view, this war in Iran is a big mistake for the world and therefore for the U.S.
Do you think that the U.S. and Europe share the same values? Is there still a united West?
Well, I think actually that we share common values, defending open markets, defending multilateralism, international order and democracy. The transatlantic agenda is nowadays very weak when it comes to trade, when it comes to the respect of territorial integrity, for instance, in the case of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark, and of course the situation in Ukraine.
Obviously, we've seen what Russia is doing there. Certainly, a number of your counterparts have expressed concern that this could develop into a wider conflict on the continent. Do you feel that Europe is prepared for that? Is Spain prepared for that?
So I do agree that this war in Ukraine is not only about Ukraine, but it's also about how Putin is trying to undermine and weakening the European Union project. Second, I think that there's a roadmap, a clear roadmap when it comes to what are the duties that the European Union should take and make. And that means that we need to scale up our defense industry, that we need to strengthen our single market and economic policies that could make Europe more resilient towards these kind of shocks in Ukraine or in the Middle East.
And do you think people in Spain and across Europe more broadly are ready for the trade-offs that might require to be increasing spending on defense and taking steps to make Europe more competitive?
Well, I think that we are ready. There's a competitive agenda more linked to the green transition, to a digital union market, to an energy union market, to a social pillar that we need to strengthen within the European Union. That is what Spain is a stand for. The paradox in Europe is that unfortunately we have also other visions, other approaches that are more linked to, let's say, deregulation instead of harmonization and simplification of the regulatory framework in Europe. I hope that we can have and reach an agreement about the roadmap that we must follow within the European Union to get that competitiveness and to enhance our strategic autonomy for the coming years.